Cooking is one of the great joys of life, especially when you make a meal unnecessarily complicated with everything made from scratch. The harder you work, the better it tastes, right? But truth be told, it really isn't that hard. One of our weekly traditions is a big Sunday night dinner, typically consisting of fresh pasta with delicious wines from California and Italy and France, all kicked off with a cocktail. It's a ritual that takes hours to complete. It's a process that could take 15 minutes with pasta out of a box and sauce out of a jar, but what's the fun in doing things the easy way? And to be clear, making homemade pasta doesn't really need to be hours of work. It's actually quite simple and generally quick. We just like to meander through the process and enjoy ourselves and each other's company, all while listening to good music and making classy cocktails. Our Sunday night pasta ritual begins at the grocery store to pick up fresh ingredients. We usually go to Trader Joe's or Sprouts, but today, since we're making a YouTube video and want to look cooler than we actually are, we went to Italian specialty superstore Eataly. If you haven't been to an Eataly, it's basically a grocery store / restaurant / bakery / butcher shop / liquor store and wine store / another restaurant. It's a marketplace for all things Italian. Today, we picked up some fresh produce, San Marzano tomatoes, mozzarella, Parmesan, basil, bread, and most importantly, wine. We also got a lemon, and honestly, I don't know why. With ingredients in hand, we start some music up on the Sonos to set the mood for the evening. For our usual pasta recipe, you need flour, eggs, olive oil, and water. We also recommend this pasta book called Pasta for some other dough and sauce recipes. If you want a taste of this book's vibe, here's how it starts. To mix the dough, we're using a KitchenAid that I bought with fantasy football winnings because I'm really good at fantasy football. But honestly, any stand mixer should do. First step is really easy. Get 3 cups of flour and dump it in the bowl. Next, we add 4 eggs, a bit of salt. Then we start to mix, and we add in olive oil as we mix, not a ton, maybe a few tablespoons, add a bit of moisture, and then we add water as needed to make the dough come together. Once the dough is firm yet slightly sticky, it's time to show it some love. Every ounce of aggression you have toward work, towards the unfairness of life, toward past lovers, and maybe even present, let it out on that dough. After it's firmed up, wrap it up and stick it in the fridge for a bit.
Approximately 10 hours later.
Actually, we don't just wait for the dough, we make use of this time with a cocktail. And a classic Negroni makes the perfect pairing. This is a drink to which we were introduced by Anthony Bourdain way back in 2011 on his show The Layover. Our first time with a Negroni was actually at this very bar in Rome where Anthony Bourdain drank and quipped,
"There's a free buffet for the college students to fill up in between drinks and unintended pregnancies."
Our favorite gin for Negronis, and really most gin drinks, is the Botanist. You should be able to find this at Trader Joe's in California or definitely at a Bevmo or Total Wine. With drink in hand, we like to nibble on some bread. Today we're eating a loaf overflowing with olives that goes perfectly with our typical homemade bread dip. A bit of olive oil, oregano, chili flakes, Parmesan, and preferably garlic. But the missus isn't too keen on raw garlic, which is sad because I love garlic, like truly, madly, deeply love garlic. In the future, I probably see this being cited in our divorce proceedings.
Just kidding.
Anyway, let's get started on that sauce, yeah? We're going with the basic marinara sauce. We start with a bunch of garlic, use as much as you like. Then saute it for a bit until fragrant and maybe browning a bit. Then we add a couple of cans of whole San Marzano tomatoes, some spices, and then about a full can of tomato paste. I'm not sure others would really advocate for this, but I don't really care. I think it tastes good. You can adjust accordingly by using less or adding some pasta water, or you could just try adding the whole thing and see if you like it. Finally, we chop some fresh basil to toss. We've tried it cooked down a bit or thrown in at the end. Both are excellent. Honestly, it's dealer's choice. Unfortunately, the pasta doesn't materialize on its own. We do need to push it out like one of those Play-Doh machines you used when you were a kid, except now it's okay to eat it. Like I said, we're using a KitchenAid, but you can make string pasta using something like an Atlas or rolling and cutting into strands. Hand crank pasta makers are pretty cheap. We'll link some below, so don't feel like this whole making pasta at home thing is gonna break the bank. We started with a crank pasta maker and we loved the thing. We just weren't great at taking care of it because after a couple of years it was rusty, like tetanus shot situation. If you want to avoid choking the KitchenAid to an abrupt halt, it's best to use small balls of dough. All it needs is a snip when it hits the right length and you're good to go. Be sure to sprinkle with flour to keep the pasta from sticking. Ideally, you could extrude onto a large baking sheet so the pasta doesn't touch. However, we made the rookie mistake of using a small plate because we thought it looked better on camera.
You just made a big mistake.
With the water roaring like a fervent Twitter user on an outrage bender, we're ready to cook the rigatoni. This is the part of the process where I almost always get burned. While the pasta cooks, we pour more wine and enjoy music. After about a minute, I start tasting the pasta and keep testing every 30 seconds until it's gone, until it's cooked to our liking, which is pretty firm. Finally, at this late hour, the sun surely nestled beneath the horizon. The time has come to feast. The saucy extravagance plated to amateurish perfection and topped with chunks of mozzarella and freshly grated parmesan. Our reward before us, we cheers and indulge in the yield of a night's work. All the more satisfying because we did it ourselves. So next time you're in the pasta aisle at the grocery store, consider whether you want to continue the mundanity of eating food from a cardboard box. Maybe consider living a little and daring to try something new. Who knows, you may find yourself falling into a fulfilling new tradition, or impressing a friend, or disapproving parents, or I don't know, a date. Buon appetito, amici.
Vino, I love you. What is this locking? No one knows. How's this guy gonna get out of the spot? This does not look good. I'm the person who rotates the bottle instead of the cork.